Hello. Still raining here in the Ozarks. But we're glad to be on high ground in a nice warm house, safe. And today Chapter 11, Capitol Hill. Of Charlene, Darling, A Very Slow Turtle by Beck. And let me show you the picture. Starts out with a picture of two lemur waitresses. The one in the foreground is Miss Charlotte, and in the background, Miss Amanda with the pink hair. Charlene, Darling, and Tor have been to the Council of Turtles to get advice, and Tor gave Charlene a tour of Capital City. And now they are going to Capitol Hill because Charlene, Darling wanted to attend church. The chipper chirping of birds awakened Charlene, Darling before Tor the following sunny, damp morning. Charlene promptly knocked on Tor's shell with a "Wakey, wakey, pour the corn flaky, dude." Tor peered out in amusement. "I slept like a log, Darling. How about you?" "Out like a light all night," Charlene answered. "And I feel great," she said as she stretched. "I feel like breakfast," Tor announced while placing a hand on his belly. "You up for something traditional like pancakes and eggs or biscuits and gravy?" "Sure. Let me tie a scarf around my head and then lead the way, my route master." Charlene withdrew a long red silk scarf from her shell, gently folded it to form a slender band, and tied it in a perky little bow on top of her head. Tor smiled while poking the stems of two white daisies alongside the bow. Then he said, "Follow me, Darling." Charlene and Tor dined at the Over Easy, where a line of lemurs was flipping pancakes, eggs, hash browns, and toast. Beyond them were more lemurs mixing biscuits with their hands and stirring gravy with their tails. Customers just bellied up to the bar and gave their order to one of the waitresses, reciting, "What'll it be?" after she swung over to them by way of ropes hanging from overhead beams. "Very unusual," remarked Charlene, Darling, as she took a seat. "I do dare to dazzle, Darling," Tor replied. Just then, a family of cheetahs burst into the Over Easy and approached a waitress named Charlotte about their missing baby. "Missing baby?" screamed Charlotte as she swung frantically from beams and ropes, scouring every nook and cranny for a baby cheetah. "No, ma'am," the father cheetah explained. "It's our daughter's baby doll that is missing. I think we may have left it in a back booth. Could you check, please?" Father cheetah politely asked, as Mother cheetah consoled her whimpering toddler. "Amanda!" Charlotte called to a pink-haired lemur with a large bandana tied in a knot at the top of her head. "Have you bussed a table with the baby cheetah?" "I don't know nothing about bussin' no babies, Miss Charlotte," Amanda answered, but a hound dog named Red Butler held up his pup, which happened to be clenching a stuffed baby cheetah between his teeth. "A butler did it," Amanda announced and pointed. "Sorry, sir," said Charlotte, and promptly jumped over to retrieve it from the pup's mouth and return it to a clapping young cheetah. "What'll it be?" Lemur Charlotte asked, with her pen and pad in hand. Pancakes and orange juice, please, Charlene said with confidence.
Biscuits and gravy, a large hash brown, and 4 eggs over easy for me, and coffee, please, ordered Tor.
Be right back, Charlotte said as she swung away. Where do you put it all, Tor? Charlene Darling asked as she scanned the wiry turtle.
Tor flexed his muscles and stated, Hey, that's a bunch of muscle.
Hey, that's a bunch of bull, Charlene laughed boisterously, as a portly bull and cow seated on the other side of Tor glared at Charlene. Oh, please forgive me, Charlene sputtered.
Yes, she was talking to me, sir, Tor added.
I'm sure, the cow indignantly spoke as she rolled her eyes, and the bull sitting next to her snorted. Charlene ate quicker than she had ever eaten before and excused herself to the restroom. Several minutes later, Tor paid the bill and visited the men's room. He stepped out to wait for Charlene by the ladies' room door, when a very insulted cow, the one who had been seated by Tor, stormed out of the ladies' room and through the restaurant to her male companion. Come, Ken, she ordered as she snatched her shawl from the bar stool and marched out the restaurant door.
Roberta, dear,
the bull called as he put a $20 bill on the counter and chased after his very distraught wife. Not long after that, Charlene crept out of the ladies' room, grabbed Tor's arm, and pulled him outside the over-easy.
I have never seen a turtle look so sheepish, darling, Tor whispered. What happened?
I'm so embarrassed, Charlene answered in agony. I had combed out my hair and started talking to a friendly aardvark about fashion and loungewear. While I was putting on my lipstick, the aardvark commented that she found muumuus to be very comfortable. The cow sitting next to you at breakfast came in, just as I blurted out that most muumuus are too big and gaudy for my taste. The cow screamed, "Insolent reptile!" and left before I had a chance to explain.
Very unfortunate timing, darling, but it's really not your fault, Tor said in an effort to comfort.
I feel just awful, Charlene said as she cringed. Tor put an arm around Charlene and said,
No blue turtles on my watch. Besides, you look like $1,000,000.
Charlene looked up with a slight smile and spoke. Thanks, Tor. The day has got to get better. Tor spurred her spirits on by saying,
There's that green glow I've come to know so well. Off to Capitol Hill.
By the time they had reached the sanctuary, Charlene Darling was feeling almost as bright and cheery as the 2 daisies looked pinned to her curls. Pastor Johnson Possum stood at the door to greet all who entered. Charlene eagerly climbed the church steps to meet this awesome possum when something caught her eye and rather startled her. Pastor Johnson Possum's legs and feet were slightly twisted under his robe. As she moved her eyes upward to his extended hand, she saw that it too was twisted and curled into a ball. Charlene let out a soft, "Oh," but was put to ease by Pastor Johnson's warm eyes and reassuring voice. "It's quite all right. Go ahead," the kind possum muttered. So Charlene took hold of the balled-up hand and shook it gently. You brought a visitor, Tor," the possum said with a twinkle in his eyes. "I am delighted." Tor made the introductions with,
Pastor Johnson, this is my very good friend, Miss Charlene Darling. Darling, this is the most awesome possum you will ever meet, Pastor Johnson.
"Tor speaks very highly of you, sir," Charlene praised. "I am sure he speaks likewise of you, Charlene Darling," Pastor Johnson said in return. Welcome. I hope I have something to offer you today.
We are here to give thanks, Pastor Johnson,
Tor readily said. Bless you, Pastor Johnson Possum said, and gestured for them to enter. Charlene, Darling, and Tor were ushered to their seats by a groundhog. The animals were seated according to size. Smaller animals were seated in the front, and larger ones in the back. The porcupines had a pew to themselves. As Tor and Charlene Darling walked past each pew, a pair of formidable horns and a familiar voice politely asking, "Could you move down a little, please?" sent a sudden ball of nausea to Charlene Darling's stomach. Tor squeezed Charlene Darling's arm and advised,
"Just keep walking. Don't look back. I don't think they saw us."
Just when Charlene Darling and Tor thought they had safely blended in, Pastor Johnson took the pulpit and welcomed everyone. He then asked any newcomers to please stand so they could be introduced. Charlene Darling immediately clutched her seat and started shaking her head in an effort to deter the pastor from his usual formality. "Come now," Pastor Johnson spoke. "Don't be shy." Charlene Darling clung harder to her seat and shook her head more violently. "I happen to know 2 turtles that need to stand. One is an old friend who we don't see often enough, and the other is a newcomer. Tor, would you like to introduce your guest to the congregation?" the pastor pleaded.
"Darling, you can do this. I'm right here with you,"
Tor whispered in Charlene's ear as he helped her to her feet, and they faced the abundance of animal faces behind them. "Cow patty in a pond!" reverberated through the sanctuary as Tor prepared to speak. And that's where we're going to stop in this chapter because it's a little bit longer. Can't wait to find out what happens in the second part. Thanks for being with me.